Hey guys, we're doing a straight shoot through video, kind of like I used to do. I know I haven't updated this YouTube channel in quite some time, and I apologize for that, but most of my content's over at GameSpot. But today I wanted to do a more personal vlog that I didn't think really fit over there, which is why we're back to the old school like webcam and desk microphone thing. It's just, you know, going back to the roots, not using any of the GameSpot equipment, not producing anything. It's just a little rant. So anyway, the thing that really inspired this conversation or this video is earlier today, Nips, for people that don't know, is a really well-known artist that does fan art and also does her own like comic and all that stuff. She's great. I support her Patreon. People can look her up. ONips on Twitter, I believe it is. Anyway, she recently applied for a position at Riot and did not get the position. She posted about how she'd been turned down today and was kind of bummed about that. Anyway, super talented, wonderful woman, and I think is an asset to anyone who ends up using her talents for any kind of work or anything like that. But it made me kind of think, and I wanted to talk about something that I've actually talked to a lot of people about before. That's kind of been my thing, because I actually, Nips is not the first friend that I've had who got turned down from working at Riot Games. I have a lot of different friends who did. And so I always kind of give them this whole thing, even when they're playing, really. And so I think it's kind of important. For a lot of people, the whole dream for them is working at Riot. They love League of Legends. They know that the company's really good. There's some great opportunities working there and some great perks. It's really a fantastic place. And I encourage a lot of people that I know to apply at Riot. I've had friends who I've said, like, you should go apply. They've applied. They've gotten jobs. It's great. Anyway, I want to now brag a little about myself randomly, right? Especially this is important, I think, for anybody who watches this video who might not know who I am, because it provides context for this, right? So I'm going to not be humble. I'm just going to brag like crazy. So for the past 4 years, I just celebrated my 4-year anniversary of creating esports content at the start of this month, end of last month. And during that time, I have traveled all over the world. I have a super awesome job. I've met so many cool people. Just fantastic, unique individuals. I've gone on so many random adventures. My video producer will remember the Viking bar in Sweden that I've talked about a little bit the first time whenever I went to go to a DreamHack. I've made friendships that I am sure will last a lifetime, and just had all these unique opportunities given to me by doing this. The first time I ever left the country was about 2 or 3 years ago, and I went to Korea, Seoul, Korea, basically funded by a subreddit that sent me the money to buy the plane ticket and the hotel and all this different stuff so that I could create content, right? Like, basically, I have my dream job right now. I couldn't ask for more. Absolutely love my job, and again, like, just even on the social front, things have been so good. CBSI, the company that employs me, GameSpot is the website that they own that I make content for. They pretty much let me create whatever content I want within reason. League of Legends related, they send me all over the place. They really believe in what I do, and I frequently feel like they are really satisfied with what I do. And again, like, just let me do what I feel comfortable doing. I get to pick this stuff, right? There's no like, oh, do this or do that, right? Anyway, the whole point is that things are really great. I mean, there's obviously some downsides here or there, but I still feel like this is kind of my dream job. The camera went blurry. Come on, you got this. Camera, I believe in you. Anyway, so dream job, super fantastic, everything's great. I applied to Riot Games twice and got turned down twice. I went through the application process twice, all the way up until the in-person interviews. For those that don't know, the way that it works is that usually when you apply at Riot, you do 2 or 3 phone screenings, maybe sometimes 1, but that's rare. And then they do basically a whole on-site interview day with people that would work for you, people that would work with you, people that you would report to, people who have been with the company for a while. And then at the end of it, basically the way it works is that all these different people come together and they do like a thumbs up, thumbs side, thumbs down, or whatever on how they felt about the person that they interviewed, and based on that they determine whether or not they're going to hire you. And So the first time I applied was in the senior year of my college year. I applied to be a production intern because I wanted to. I originally, whenever I was leaving college, wanted to be a producer at a video game. That was sort of the dream job that I had at the time, right? Like this was what I really wanted, and there was no place more that I wanted this job than at Riot Games, despite the fact that it was dramatically smaller than it is now. They weren't actually. There was just 2 offices ago when I interviewed for this, and they ultimately got to the very end of the interview process. I interviewed on site, did all this stuff, and I think ultimately they didn't even get a production intern. They decided that they wanted some like a production associate or something like that for that position, and so I didn't get the job. So I was really, really bummed. But I was like, hey, it's okay. I'm graduating college soon. I had worked at the technology help desk on campus at Long Beach State for 4 years. I had a degree in communication studies. I had all this I had recommendations from my bosses. Felt like I was super qualified for a pretty arguably entry-level position at Riot Games, which was player support, just answering support tickets, that kind of thing. It's really valuable, great people that work and do that job. But again, like very entry level position. And the whole plan for me was like, okay, I'll go here, I'll learn some skills, I'll get more embedded in the company, and hopefully work my way up to production. Anyway, I went through that whole process, and I felt like I was very qualified for the position. And at the very end of it, I did not get that job either, right? This was right after I'd graduated, so like June, July of 2011. And I was crushed. I remember just going and sitting in the car and just being like, what am I going to do? Which sounds so ridiculous in hindsight because it was one job, right? Like of course you apply to a lot of different places, so you're not always going to get the job, right? But I was so crushed because I thought I had it. I knew people at the company, people had recommended me. I just felt like this would be perfect. And I just didn't know what I was going to do. Anyway, people can go look on the YouTube for a video that I did like 3 years back called 1 Year in Esports that basically details how I got to where I am now 4 years later. But one point that I make in that is that about 4 or 5 months after I got turned down for the second job, I was on a flight to Providence, Rhode Island to host MLG Providence, and I remember it hit me like, wow, I am so happy I didn't get that job because I wouldn't be doing this right now. There was no way for me to know that this job that I am doing now or anything like this would exist at the time, right? Because it was so early. I couldn't have ever been like, oh, my dream job is esports content creator, personality, interview, or whatever you want to call me, because that just didn't really exist in League of Legends at the very least. And so I don't fault myself for being so obsessed with this like working at Riot thing, right? But okay, so let's fast forward 4 years now to where I am. Arguably, I'm very qualified for a couple different positions at Riot and esports and probably elsewhere, not within the esports department. And if you ask me right now, like, would I work at Riot? I would probably say no. I like my job right now. Who knows in the future I might switch to something else, but I don't want to work at Riot. And if you ask Riot, because this is a question I often get, right, is why isn't there a Riot Travis? Like, why aren't you Riot Travis? Why don't they just hire you? You could do interviews for them or something like that. But actually, I would say, and I think Riot would agree with me, whoever would be talking about this, is that I actually offer more value and can do more for the League of Legends esports community outside of Riot than I can do within it. I can do stuff that doesn't fit their brand, for instance. Like the LCS is often, most of the time anyway, super serious, super professional. We're ESPN, right? Whereas I have the opportunity to ask questions that nobody else could ask. I can give a ridiculous not safe for work comic to Doublelift on his birthday 2 years in a row. Could not do that at Riot, right? And well, that might not be indicative of value for me or anything like that. I just can do stuff and provide content and insight that I couldn't do if I was working at Riot. Anyway, though, kind of the whole point of this rant is that, yes, I know that not everyone is going to agree or end up in my position, right? Not everyone is going to to say like, okay, well, I got done at Riot interviews and I didn't get the job. I guess that means that I should just be entitled to what you're going to get, or what happened with you, Travis. Like, no, I understand that you're not always going to meet a pro player like a month later and then begin this crazy, wacky esports adventure, right? But the main point for me is that there are a lot of very qualified people that apply for Riot, and they don't get the jobs for many different reasons. And quite frankly, Riot's process for interviewing and all that stuff, their filter is so high that I guarantee you they leave people out that would be great fits for the company, that could provide great value to the company, and that would be a culture fit, which is a term that they like to use to describe someone who would work well within the company and get along with people and all that. There are these people out there that are really talented and they just don't get the job. So not getting that job is not indicative of your value or anything like that. You could be fantastic. In fact, you're like what you do could be so great. You could do something entirely else with it, right? You could end up in a completely different place. I'm a firm believer that things tend to happen for a reason, or that things end up, working themselves out in the end. And I really truly believe that if you didn't get the job at Riot, maybe you're meant for something else. You don't know, maybe you don't become an esports journalist, right? Maybe you do something else in esports. Maybe you apply for Riot Esports, you don't get it, and you become like a general manager for a team. And then eventually you become like a team owner. And 5-10 years down the line, whenever esports is way bigger, you're suddenly running this huge thing, and you're like, wow, if I had gotten that job at Riot, like I never would have ended up here. You could be someone who is a great designer and you don't get a job at Riot and you're super sad about that, but then you take a job somewhere at this like little startup that ends up becoming bigger than Riot 5 years down the road, or creates a game that wins a ton of awards, and you would have never, and you're a higher position there than you would have been at Riot, and so suddenly you get a lot more credibility, you get more money, you get all these awards or whatever, like you get more fulfillment because you're able to have more influence over the project. There's a lot of value at working at Riot, but again, like I said, I really suggest that friends who I think would be great fits there apply for those positions. Great company, they do great stuff, but they're not perfect, right? You might be able to make more money elsewhere. I think, unless, from my understanding over the years, talking to people, unless you're pretty high in management or you're an executive, like the pay is not much better than other companies, right? You can make more money elsewhere. You can maybe get more fulfillment. Maybe now that League is so big, there's so many people working on it. You can do something. You can work on something smaller and have much bigger impact on it. People that work at Riot work ridiculous hours in a lot of different positions, right? They feed you there, so there's other things you could socialize. You can meet other people. There's certainly a lot of great things that you get from working there, but there's so many cool opportunities outside of the company. You just need to kind of recover from that and start looking at what it is that you want to do with yourself, where you want to go, and build something like that. And who knows, like maybe you end up doing something. Maybe you're an engineer or a designer, somebody fresh out of college. You work on this little project. It's like a fan mod for the game, or a website or something like that. And a year from now, you get hired at a higher level, at a higher pay rate, doing cooler stuff than you would have if you'd gotten that position you'd been applying for before. Maybe you end up there again in the future. Maybe you never do. For certain, I could see a road many years down the line where it just makes more sense for me to be at Riot at that point in time, and maybe I would pursue that. But I don't see that in the near future at all, and I highly recommend that you just keep your chin up and realize that there's so many other opportunities out here, League of Legends related and non-League of Legends related, for people to work on and pursue. So anyway, that's my 2 cents. Thanks for watching, and hope you enjoyed it.